Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to another episode of a Stoked podcast. As always, I'm Javon Stokes, owner of Visually Stoked Media, writer, artist, general, ne'er-do-well. And to my left, right, whatever you want to call it today, I have the always impeccable Jamari Stokes. And this is a Stoked podcast. So, how you been, man? How you been?
Pretty good, sir. I was in your old stomping grounds the other day.
Where, SCAD?
Took a
Wow.
took a group of students to do a tour of SCAD.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Shout
it
out to
was
SCAD. I know I still owe you
at
money, but
Atlanta.
I'm gonna owe you money for a while. So you'll be all right.
I may
Yeah.
need you to come in. You may have to do a conference and talk to some of my students because
I'm
I
more,
need them to talk
I'm
more
always
normally.
I'm always talking. So y'all gotta excuse the crying baby. He's getting his hair washed. So that's I keep trying to tell him. If he
I
had it
washed
like
it.
me, he'd be all right. But he want to have big curly hair. So But as always, welcome to a Stoke podcast. We got a good guest today. We were just trying to determine how long we've been friends, and we just realized like this year would be about 30 years of friendship. So that's crazy. As always, right there, you can post your comments, everything, say hi, ask questions, whatever. This is going to probably be an insane show because,
Oh
when
boy.
you have like a friend that you've known for a long time, sometimes you revert back to the age that you were when you were at your craziest. So
That's an
this
interesting
all
way of looking at it.
it literally always happens with us. So we going. I'm gonna try and rein it in. I make no promises.
There is no hope, ladies and gentlemen.
As always, go to visuallysoap.com right there. I got comics, shirts, I got everything. For anybody that's asking, I'm still working on the Kickstarter stuff. And for anybody that's curious, I am about halfway or more through heat number 2. I'm grinding, I'm working. I hope it's done in October. It probably won't be done till November. We'll see. So as always, yes, go to visuallystoke.com. But I know this man has kids and is literally in the monsoon or something right now. So we're not gonna hold him too long. So let me pull up. Always got to pull it up. Where is it? All right. Here we go. Our next guest has been a friend of mine for about 20 plus years. I was way off. He's an accomplished attorney as well as a professor in the healthcare administration department at Advent Health University in Orlando. While accomplishing this, he's made it his mission to educate any and everyone in the discussion on religious liberties and how it affects us and our society. He is my brother and one of my best friends. Let's give a Stoked podcast round of applause to Jason Hines. Let's get you in here. There. Let's. All right. Did I bring you in? Was that satisfactory?
I was sufficiently impressed because
mean,
I didn't
No,
know.
no, tell them you're disappointed.
I know.
I know what
Look,
he's about to say.
Look.
So, go ahead and say it.
Your command of the English language has improved over several decades, and so I was like, wait a second, this is a professional introduction. I believe in this dude right here.
I'm not gonna say nothing because I am the smarter, more how do I put this? More charismatic one of the group of us. So he's a little jealous, but that's all right. It's okay. You can make that face all you want. We know your computer ain't froze.
The funny thing about it is I was sitting here trying to figure out, I was like, how loose are we getting on this? Let me not lose my job on the Random Bulls podcast.
Hey, listen, if you're watching from his job.
Random guys have been losing their jobs on podcasts.
If you're watching from your job, just take it with a grain of salt and understand that this is 30 years of insanity and foolishness. We're not going to get too bad, but we'll try and get the happy stuff. We'll try and get the professionalism in first, and then we will reach a point where y'all can leave. If you don't want a different viewpoint of Jason, I don't know what y'all see of him. You know, we got Bob Marley with us tonight. We got Jason Hines.
That's real talk though, because I was faded up. I was faded up in the old days. This is only about 5 or 6 years old, so I ain't even mad at you. I ain't even mad at you for getting at me like that.
You had that for a minute. You were braided up for a minute though. You were braided up.
That was in my early 20s, but I didn't hold it for that long. Like,
yeah. Oh, okay.
I had it. I did it in my early 20s, and then I only maybe had it for maybe about a year. And then I went back, and then
I don't think I could get my hair braided up that long at this point in 5 years. But, more power.
Real talk about the locks. After Trump got elected, I went, okay, I'm extra black now. I was like, we're gonna set it on extra black.
Now, when you're extra black, how many herbs and spices go in on that version of
like 3 more than the Colonel. Is that what you put on it? So
you ain't the
I was legitimately taken aback when I saw this man. I mean, I haven't like I said, we talked about this offline. I haven't seen him since my mom's funeral. So my son is 3, and his hair wasn't that long. He's about to be 4. My son's about to be 4.
Right.
So your hair wasn't that long. So I was just like, dang.
So yeah. So after 2016, I didn't cut it for a year. I just had it in an afro. And then my wife was like, you either gotta cut it or you gotta lock it.
You gotta do something with that on
you out here on that Frederick Douglass, like the old picture of Frederick Douglass.
You just had it like parted to the side. Did you
part it? No,
part.
The funny thing is, like, some days I was looking like Huey from the Boondocks, and then other days when I was like trying to look like something, I would look like Frederick Douglass.
I'm glad you did something with that. I'm glad I didn't see that.
You was 12 years a slave.
I would have clowned you mercilessly.
And that's what happens when you have a wife that looks out for you. She was like, dude, she was like, you either got to cut it off.
He set you on a lock journey, huh?
Yeah, she was like, you either got to cut it off or you got to get it locked. And so I said, we'll lock it because I'm not going to cut it.
But you know what? It fits you. I got to be honest with you. It fits you.
It does. Even my mom, who was mad at me when I first did it. I just saw her like a week ago.
I was about to do an impression of your mom. I was like this close, but I was like, wait, let me bring it back.
She saw me like a week ago and was like, it looks nice. She was like, it looks nice. She was like, I can't even.
The begrudging compliment.
Right. She was like, I can't even really say anything about it. She was like,
but there's always that awkward, and I know we're so on a tangent, but whatever. It's going to be that show.
Right.
There's always that in-between phase where it's like, it ain't right. Like, because I don't know if you remember. You might not have been around for this. I had twists for a little bit.
I remember seeing pictures of it, but I wasn't around.
I had twists for maybe like 3-4 months, and I let my hair, it was a period where like I started letting my hair grow, and I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. Now I had remember when Eddie Murphy had those small twists and then they laid down like an afro? That's what I did. And I was like, okay, I can rock with that because it looks like an afro. But it was just the amount of time that I had to keep getting it twisted. I was like, yo, I can't do this.
That was what I had. That was what I had in my early 20s, and I couldn't do it either.
It's too much.
I let it go after about 10 months because it was like, I can't keep doing this over and over and over again. But I was committed to it this time. So I went through that awkward phase.
Right. And so the second time I let my hair grow was the quarantine. And if you've seen pictures of me in the quarantine, like I had like the fro, and that's when, my wife was like, all right, you should do something with it. And so I started trying to do things like the sponge and all that.
Yeah.
And I tried that for a few months. I was like, man, I'm so lazy. This is taking too much work.
But so let me tell you, once you get past the awkward phase of this is a lazy man's dream. Once you get past the awkward phase, because once you get past the awkward phase, truth be told, half of the time I'm only doing this because we're friends. I took it out because I was like, let me go on my boy's podcast and have it out. Usually I got it in the dread cap and it just stays in the dread cap and I don't ever do anything with it.
No, I'm too lazy for it. I'll leave that for you.
And then literally all I do is I take the dread cap off, pat it down, and then be like, all right, we on the podcast.
All right. Well, before we go even further down the rabbit hole, because I feel like that rabbit hole is just creeping and talking to us. Let's get it professional for a second.
For sure.
Now, if you watched the show a couple, I'm sure you watched it a couple times. For those that don't know, I usually start with like a professional rabbit hole question. And I've known you for a long time and I don't know the answer to this question. So I'm glad I get to do this. And I've never asked you. You and I, we both kind of know what our strengths are, in our little group. We kind of know, like, you do this, I do this, you do this, but I've never asked you. I know you know my answer, but I never asked you what drew you to like have a focus in the law.
It's funny that was always my answer to that. Normally is that literally as long as I can remember, that was what I wanted to be. When other kids wanted to be cops and firemen, I wanted to be a lawyer. Like that was just the way that it was. It just so happened that the skills that I have sort of moved me in that direction. And then of course it's sort of a chicken or the egg argument, right? Like, did I develop the skills that I needed to be a lawyer because that was what I wanted to be, or are these naturally the things that I have and it just fit what I wanted to do? I don't take time to really think about the answer to that, but the ability to make an argument, the ability to think logically, the ability to think critically. These are all skills that I've been honing from, when we were running through Hartford and Bloomfield and Windsor together. Right. So
I'm trying not to bring that stuff up, man, because
we've been doing that from Jump Street. And so the law is just a natural extension of that.
Right.
And the shift really came when I realized that I was interested in the subject of the law, but I wasn't interested in being a lawyer. That is where the change and the real thought had to come in about where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
Right, because I remember this very clearly. I think it was me and Roy. Shout out to Roy. Like, for those that don't know us, as he's talking about when we were running through Bloomfield and Hartford, there was like four of us. There was me, Jason, a friend of mine, Dr. Roy Kellerman, and Malcolm Bernard. And it was four of us doing stupid stuff, but pretty specifically going to movies and watching and going to Fridays. Like, that was it. Like
every Saturday night, whether we were supposed to be there or not.
Like, we've spent hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars.
Thousands
between Fridays but so you don't remember, like, a lot of people can remember that moment where they were like, I want to be a lawyer. Do you remember, like, not every, but I mean, like, do you remember that, all right, this is where I'm going to go from here?
Right. See, that's what I'm telling you. I don't remember the moment when I said I want to be a lawyer. I do remember the moment when I said I want to be a professor. Like that was the thing. That's the thing that's different for me. It's like birth to me to be interested in the law, to be interested in politics, to be interested in justice, to be interested in these types of things. That stuff is central to who I am. I can't separate that out to figure out when I decided that was the thing that I wanted to do.
Right.
But I remember when I said this lawyer thing is for the birds. I gotta do something else.
I remember you had a nice Philly apartment. I remember that Philly apartment.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't living broke. I'm not, that those early Philly days when I was 23 and fresh out of law school and single and living down in the heart of Philadelphia, like, I look back on those days and say, yeah, that was the life. I'm living the life now too. It's just different. When you're 42, I'm also living the life now, but it's just different. And that's just about growing up and being older and whatever. But I remember, I'll tell you the story. I was at a seminar. I had already been traveling the country, doing these seminars on religious liberty and religious freedom. I'd come back home and already done that. And that had been going well, but I was still working at the law firm. And I remember I went to this seminar that was called Growing Your Brand, and it was like the Black Law Association of Philadelphia, whatever they were called. Don't nobody remember that now. Whatever they were called, they had put it together. And so all the Black associates at the firm that I was at, we all went. It was being run by a guy who had been a mentor to me, who I had known in the Philadelphia legal culture. And one of the slides said, here's what you should do to grow your brand. And I don't remember specifically now what the 5 things were, but I remember thinking to myself, I am not doing any of these 5 things for the job that I have. And I'm doing all of these 5 things for these weekend seminars that I'm doing.
Right.
And I was like, well, if that's true, you probably shouldn't be doing your job anymore. And I went to my mentor who was running the seminar, and I went to go say what's up to him after. And I told him basically what I just told you. And I remember this dude, he was like 6'3", 6'4", over 300 pounds, like a big, light-skinned Black man. And I remember he like put himself eye to eye with me. So like he came down and looked me dead in the eye and took his big hands and grabbed both my shoulders and was like, Jason, if this is the way you feel, get out now. And
that's not intimidating at all.
And I'm sitting there looking at the dude. And the next day I started looking for PhD programs. Like, nice. to go back to school and get the PhD, but not because I like school, because I actually don't like school. I think school is a necessary evil. But it was like, if I'm going to teach, this is the stuff that I need. I'm really excited to do that more than I'm excited to do the job that I was doing. Let me go do that. And that moment when he said to me, he said, you need to get out now. He was like, you're 28, you're not married, you don't have any children, there's nothing keeping you from making a career change right now. Right. You need to go make a career change while you still can. And I was like, that's a smart guy. I'm gonna go do what he said.
Yeah, I think about that. Like, I always wonder if like if during that same time frame that you're talking about, if somebody had pulled me aside and had done that. But that's always a good thing when you have the freedom to shift. You know what I mean? Because it's really easy to, once you get a family and everything like that, like the priority no longer becomes fully what do you want to do? It's how do you make money to support? You know what I mean? So like, to be able to be at the age where you're able to do that shift, because you could be still at the law firm.
Yeah. And if we had got, well, there are a couple of things I say to my wife all the time. You didn't want to marry that guy. Like that guy who was frustrated and not sufficiently aligned with what he should have been doing in life. Right. Like that guy was a very different guy. In fact, my wife and I have a lot of common friends, Adventism, Javon, in Black Adventism, we're all 1 degree away. And so we have a lot of common friends. And my wife has a girlfriend who had met me before I met my wife. And when she heard that her friend was talking to me, was like, I don't know how that's going to work, because the person that she met
at one point in your life,
the person that she had met, and when my wife told me that story, I was like, I get it, because the person she met, that dude was whack. Like, and then when she met me while I was dating my wife, she said something to the effect of like, oh, he's a totally different guy now. Like, he's not that guy that I knew or that I had met. She had only met me once. So part of me was like, You don't know me, but she was right about a lot of that, though. I really do think that you can still do that even with the responsibilities. One of the things that I think is really, really important is you are your best self when you're in line with what it is that you feel really led to, the thing that drives you, your passion, whatever it is. You are your best self then. And so I encourage people all the time, like, even if you have these circumstances that you think make it difficult for you to, and I know, Jay, you're sort of living some of this life right now. So I mean,
part-time.
And that's why I respect your grind, because it's like, you gotta have that avenue for who you are, for what you feel really passionate about and really driven by. Because if you don't have that, you're a very different person, and you're not bringing your best self to that relationship, to that family, to your children. Like, I shudder to think what it would have been like for that guy that I was in my 20s if he had not taken that way out and had gotten married and had kids and did all of that. I shudder to think who that person would have been in trying to relate to a wife and trying to relate to kids, etc.
So I can actually kind of speak on that. I talk to my wife about this all the time. When we were first married, I was working at a job. I'm not going to say the job. I actually, I like a lot of the people there, and I might have said this story on here before, but like, I was like depressed at this job. Like I was stressed out. Like, the circumstances behind it were like I remember, like, I would literally have like anxiety dreams about this job. Like, it was not a fit for who I was.
Yep.
And then, like, there was a point where and I've told this story before to other people, there was a point where a guy that I liked in the job, we were very similar. Like, he, shout out to Travis Holyfield. He was a comic book writer. And so we had formed like a friendship. Like, we had a kinship. Like, we both would kind of talk to each other and be like, yeah, this ain't what I want to be doing. Like, and but we were able to bond that way. But when he got let go, that was almost like
wake up call.
That was a wake up call for me that, you know what, you don't have to do this. And so then I went and I remember I put my resume on like Monster or Career Builder, probably both. And like, the job that I'm at now found it, and they reached out to me. And the job I have now, me, I love sports. And so I'm working a job where, I'm able to work within sports and it's a focus. But on top of that, I have incredible flexibility to be able to do the other stuff, the stuff that I love, the art stuff and everything. Yeah. So like, I feel like I'm happier now. I've been happier now. But I still like, I always get like a reminder, because every now and again I have one of those anxiety dreams about going back and like maybe I lose my job here and everything starts to go, and I have to like go crawling back basically to that job.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't even do it. And I had that same thing where like people at the job, when I got the new job, they would tell me, yeah, that's good for you. This ain't a good fit for you here. Like you're probably gonna.
Yeah, I had the
so
same
I understand.
Thing. Yeah, I had the same thing happen to me, because the funny thing is I started looking for PhD programs, and then maybe like 7 months after that, when I was trying to get everything situated, I got laid off. And
oh wow.
It was great. Well, it was the greatest getting laid off ever, because I knew that I was trying to go somewhere else. And basically it was like, yeah, you guys are going to pay me for something that I was probably going to do in a month anyway. Like, I was going to leave you guys anyway.
Right.
But now you're going to give me 3 months severance for something that I was going to do for free if y'all had just waited around a little bit. I was in the meeting, shaking hands and kissing babies. I know they thought I was coming back to wreak havoc on that place, because I was just way too excited to get laid off. Like, they were like, we're going to have to let you go. And I was like, yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. Yeah, go ahead.
And you know what, though? I say it all the time. God will show you. God will open your eyes, and then He'll put you in a position, like He'll give
be able to do it.
Yeah, like, and you just gotta listen. Like, because I could have easily been like, well, I don't know if I should take this other job, and I could have stayed out of fear. But I was just, you got to take that jump, and for a lot of things, like I took the jump for the job, I took the jump for the comic book, I've been taking jumps, and I'm glad that you were able to take that jump and do that, because, and I haven't said this to you ever, because your head's already big enough, so I don't really want to make it bigger. But I am proud of you. I've always been proud of you, man. I always, you've been like, I always tell people, like, I'm always chasing my friends, and when I say chasing, like, you do something amazing, I'm like, all right, I gotta do something amazing. Not because I envy you, but because it's an encouraging,
we motivate each other. And like Jay said before, there are a couple other people in the crew, but it's four of us tight in the crew. And I feel like we all have taken those steps. Right. The homie Malcolm made a jump like that from one thing to another. So I mean, and I've said this publicly on social media, but of course I've never said it to you face to face directly. Like, and I said a little bit earlier. I mean,
my head's big too, so
I really and there's no stopping that. So I just it's like filling a filled balloon. It doesn't matter. So,
we can measure circumference.
The right thing to do.
Jamari refuses to give me a compliment. He knows.
I really appreciate the grind that I've seen you on. And the truth of the matter is, like, the work is dope. You know what I mean? So
it's like a shirt, man. I love
of course, man. I was going through the drawer. I said, oh, okay, well, we gotta. I was like, okay, we gotta. So
I appreciate
we got it tonight. So I appreciate the grind. And like I said, the work is dope. And that I would tell you if I thought it was whack, like I would tell you.
Really would. Very, very quickly.
And I would, and mercilessly, true too.
Very true.
And so, you know what? This Negro, this Negro.
I'm not surprised that this dude jumped on. If we didn't have to talk about other stuff, we would pull him in and make fun of him mercilessly.
You know what? See, what you have to do is you have to embrace him tighter. We love you too, Roy. You're the greatest.
We love you, Roy. You're good. We are so proud of you, sir. Good job, guy. Good job. Before we go, so let's. What I really wanted to talk to you on this show.
Mockery going on right now.
Listen, this ain't nothing, man. This ain't nothing. Jamari, go ahead and ask a question before I dive into kind of the crux of what I wanted you to come in.
I find it interesting that you said school is a necessary evil, and you are the one who's excited about going and doing so. You have a PhD now, so being that I'm not 100% sure, it's like, so you are doing some form of teaching now.
Yeah.
Educating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna dive into it.
Let me say this. Let me say this about the education piece.
Mm-hmm.
What you'll find, and this goes back to what we were talking about before, what you find when you're walking in the thing that drives you. You will find that the stuff that you abhor is stuff that you will willingly do if you care about the destination.
I like that.
If you care about the destination. And I find that in my job now. It was maybe it was before the pandemic, so it was like a couple of years ago. It hit me one time that these cats at the university that I was working at were asking me to do something that I hated doing when I was a lawyer. And it didn't even occur to me that they were asking me to do it, because I care so much about the purpose and the mission and what I'm doing that unfortunately you can take advantage of me, because I'm willingly able to do things because I care about the purpose. And the thing is, I know that I'm being taken advantage of at times. Like, I'm not walking into that blindly, but I care so much about the destination. I care so much about the goal that I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And so the PhD, I'm not going to say the PhD was easy. It wasn't. No PhD if you get in a real one. No PhD is easy. But that stuff is light work because I cared about what I was attempting to do.
I like that. I like that.
That is good.
That's the
profound.
grind though. But that's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You're
And
saying
yeah,
you are
grind. That's
talking.
what
You
it
were
really
definitely
is. That's the
talking
grind.
about a danger there with the aspect of when people know you have that passion and when you have that drive and are willing to put in that time, and that you can get taken advantage of very easily and exploited in the wrong situation. And it sounds like you
And
weren't exploited, but you
I
definitely
wasn't, but because this was a pretty minor thing. But
yeah.
what I will say about that is you also have to know what your limits are. You have to be self-assured about who you are. Like the job is the job, and I care very much about it, but I am not the job. Like the one thing I was thinking about this afternoon as I was thinking about things that we might talk about, and becoming a father specifically was the thing that sort of let me know where my limits were, because then there was something that was definitively more important than my job. Now, of course, my marriage is also more important than my job, and that's always been true too.
I'm glad
But
that you
when you
brought
put
that
those
up.
kids, but when you
I
put
was
those
really
kids
good.
on top of it,
I was really going to be like, Jason, come on now.
but
She's watching.
when you
I'm sure.
put those kids on top of it, when you put those kids on top of it, it was the thing that really made me see. And I'll talk about what the difference is in a second. But that was the thing that made me see. No, I'm a husband and I'm a father first, and then I'm a professor. And the thing that made me see that was because when it's just you and your wife, if you've got a great wife like I do, is your wife is out there for those dreams that you have. My wife rides harder for my dreams than I do. Like she'll sit with me now and go, "Isn't there more that you want?" And I go, "No, because I'm a husband, I'm a father first. I know that now." But when we first got together, I was telling her what the plan was. And so now she looks at where we are and she says, "You haven't done everything on the list. Don't you still want that stuff?" And it's like, no, not really, because I realize that I'm a husband, I'm a father first. And so I don't need all of it. I don't need all of it. I'm okay in a lot of different places with where I am. And if opportunities present themselves, of course, I'm not going to turn them down necessarily. But I don't need to go chasing that stuff anymore. Like when we got together, I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm gonna be on TV, I'm gonna be a pundit, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that, and that stuff hasn't happened. And it might still, but it hasn't happened, and I don't need it to happen anymore because I'm doing things that are in my lane, in my passion, and I'm reaching people. And whether I'm reaching people through a television, or I'm reaching people standing up in a classroom, or I'm reaching people at a speaking event, or whether I'm reaching people through a thing that I wrote, it's about reaching people. And that's where my thing is. And I don't need, I don't need the extra zeros. You know what I mean? Like I don't need the, oh well, I'm on a thing that got seen by 3 million people. Like I don't need that. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to feel like I'm any less, because I'm still walking in the thing that drives me.
That's beautiful, man. That's
Oh
more
no, the
eloquent than I've
passion's
ever heard
there.
from you.
That is evident, and that is amazing.
But I agree. Like there's also a level of evolution, right? Like, I always be like, I want to rule the world. Like when it comes to like what I want from my company. So I understand like how like, okay, well, you got this little person that won't play with you now, or this little person that needs time, this little person who, doesn't, who honestly could care less about, your career. They love you. So I
Right.
get that. I get that. Okay. So I want you to explain religious liberty for people who don't know. Like talk to people, just break it down from in like a simple way, and then we'll dig into it.
Sure. So religious liberty in short is the ability for you to believe whatever you want to believe from a faith perspective, and be able to live a life in accordance with those beliefs. That's the short answer. The little bit more of the complex answer is what you do when religious liberties bump into each other. So, for example, I may really strongly believe that God wants me to go shoot up the place. Your religious liberty is not going to allow you to do that, Chief. Sorry. Like,
Right.
and so while that is a drastic example, what we often wrestle with in the realm of religious liberty in this conversation about religious freedom is where are the lines? What are people allowed to do that affects another person while trying to live out what they believe? And that's where the conversation gets difficult. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is expand the freedom for everybody to be able to live according to whatever faith belief they have, or more interesting, or what can be more interestingly at times, the lack of any faith. Like, we want to protect that as well. That's as important a system of belief as all of our denominational sort of tried and true traditional religious perspectives as well.
Now, where did this seed of, like, where did this idea come that you really wanted to just focus in on this? Because you've traveled and you talked to churches, you talk to everybody. You have a blog, right? I believe you still have your blog up.
That joint kind of defunct. But
you had a blog at one point, and you were,
where I was regularly, twice
So,
a week, where I was writing about it.
Where did it start to get us
still have
here?
a monthly column. I have a monthly column in Spectre magazine that often focuses on that. Yeah, that monthly that often focuses in the religious liberty space. But to answer your question, that was something that really, well, number one, it goes back to Adventism, right? So I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, have been pretty much since birth. I appreciate that, fam. And Adventism cares a lot about religious liberty because Adventism is a very small faith in comparison to other Christian denominations, and it has some beliefs that are fairly unique within Christianity. And so Adventism has always had a real emphasis on religious liberty, largely because of the Sabbath keeping and the way that affects the way that we live, right? So that's the first place. And then the second place is when I went to law school, I just got really interested in the subject because I started learning the law around it and really beginning to understand that. And so that was something that really drove me to sort of dive deeper into it after sort of being sort of steeped in it as a young person.
Okay. Jamari, you want to go before we get this user question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So how is that looking now, where this has become a hot button topic in current events? And is this topic itself, is it being abused by certain groups?
That's an interesting way to ask that question. I appreciate it. I think what we've seen, and this is really a move that's been happening for sure over the last 30 years, but I could pull it back to say the last 50 years, is
You're probably right.
Christianity. That part I know I'm right about. I mean, the seeds of it are really 5 decades, almost 50 years, almost 50 years to the year, is the seeds of it. But they really started pushing it in the late 1990s to the early 2000s, right? So what you see happening is that religious liberty used to be something that minority faiths would reach to in order to defend themselves from circumstances that were problematic for their beliefs.
Okay.
What we've seen over the last 30 years is Christianity is using religious liberty as a way to attack other people. So
essentially turn it around, possibly even to those very groups that originally used it to protect themselves.
Exactly. So you would see religious liberty used by the Adventists to say, I don't want to have to work at my job from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown because that's my Sabbath.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's like, okay, let's use religious liberty to defend that person so that they don't have to lose their job because they can't work that shift. let's make what we call reasonable accommodations so that that person can do what they want to do.
Okay.
Now religious liberty is being used by a Christian that doesn't want to make a cake for gay people. That's not defending their own beliefs. That's like, I want to do something to you.
Yeah, I'm imposing.
Yeah, I want to discriminate and exclude your beliefs because
I want to do something. I want to do something to you, and because I want to do something to you, that's going to harm you. That's going to make your life a little less happy, a little less valuable, a little less something. I want to be able to use religious liberty to do that to you.
Well, wouldn't that be like counter to just the use of the word liberty? Like, I don't, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't seem to, like, it doesn't really fit in the lane. I understand, like, they're manipulating it and they're making it toxic and using that phrase, but like, how did it find its way into that phrase? If that makes any sense.
I hear you.
50, huh?
I mean, what I would say to you is, I think what has been the real intelligence of this movement, and I'll give credit where credit is due. This is really smart. It's also very evil, but it's very smart. Is to say, how are those groups being successful? Like those groups that we don't like, Muslims, gay people, whatever group we're talking about, Black people, what are they using that's successful? Because by the way, this movement that I'm talking about is also white, right? So like, what are they doing that's successful? Oh, they're using the courts. Oh, let's use the courts too. Like the path that is successful for them, what they realized eventually was the path that is successful for them will also be successful for us if we can figure out a way to use it. And so that 5-decade movement that we've been talking about, it's been a slow burn. They have had some dedication. Like I said, I'd appreciate it if it wasn't so diabolical.
But it's no different than anything. It's almost like, I hate to use it this way, but anytime a minority tends to do anything and profits from it, or
it's then co-opted by the majority
easily.
Yeah.
Let's bring a viewer in. Not in, but the question is, can there ever be equality in religious liberty? Also bring back hindsight.
All right, y'all keep calling for it. Y'all might mess around and
saying, dude, I was wondering why you didn't. You slacking.
You're right, I am slacking. But I'm a husband and a father first. So the truth of the matter is, and this is where people want to be unfair about this, but I'm a straight talker. Can there ever be equality in religious liberty? Not really. And the reason why is because we are trying to live in this society together. And because we're trying to live in this society together, it means we're going to have to give and take, give to each other and take from each other in order for us to be able to live together. The other thing that makes it different is that everybody is somewhat of a religion unto themselves, in the sense that my Adventism is going to look very different from your Adventism, Javon, which is going to look very different from the Adventism of a random person in Iowa. Like but we all say we're Adventists. So right. So the thing is, how when things are so idiosyncratic, can we truly have what we're calling equality? We really can't. But what we have to do, right? That's what I was about to say. That's not the thing that we're really looking for. What we're looking for is, do you have the space to live as much of your beliefs as you can without running afoul of somebody else? That's really what we're talking about. Now, if we call that equality, then okay, then we have it. But that's not really equality, because the truth of the matter is, some people are going to be able to live more of their beliefs than others because their beliefs don't require them to step on as many toes. If you've got beliefs that require you to mess with a lot of other people, then no, you're not going to be as free in our society as somebody whose beliefs are better set up for living with different types of people within the same space?
I would say that instead of, I think it, I would say that you can't have equality. Equal, I think everybody wants to look for equality in everything. And I always find it funny because I don't think you can ever have equality in anything between the sexes, between sexualities, for anything. Like there's no such thing because you can't be equal. Somebody's always going to feel like they should either have a little more, a little less. I think the word equity is probably more accurate. Like, and that pretty much describes what you just said. Like, if you are a voodoo, if you practice voodoo, if you're a Haitian and you practice voodoo or whatever, like you should be able to practice, like you said, as much as you can until you almost like almost until you hit the barrier of the law. Like once you hit the barrier of the law, that's kind of where it stops, right? Because you said,
Yeah,
you're stepping, like if you're harming another person,
yeah, then it becomes problematic.
Then you're hitting against the law, right?
So the question then becomes, where do we draw the line of the law? And that's the question that we're fighting about, because we could draw the line of the law that says, yeah, you can discriminate against Black people based on your religious beliefs. We haven't drawn the line there, but there was a time when the line was drawn there. And we redrew the line differently because we said, wait a second, that's real oppressive to Black people. Let's not do that. And so we drew the line somewhere else. And now the thing that we're fighting about is about people with different sexualities. And there was a time, and that time still exists, where you can do a lot of things that are discriminatory to the LGBTQ community, and it's legal. Mm-hmm. But we have to continue to ask ourselves the question, should the line be drawn there? And we're living in a time, much like we were living at a time in the 1960s, where people are like, but we used to be able to do this yesterday. And so when people argue, oh, I feel like my religious liberty is being taken away, I say to them, yeah, it is. And I'm okay with that, because some things you shouldn't be able to do. And you shouldn't be able to hide behind your religion to be able to discriminate. You shouldn't be able to hide behind your religion in order to really harm people. And so, yeah, if it feels like something's being taken away from you, it is. But the question is whether you should have had it in the first place. And that's where I go, yeah, the answer to that is no. Like, the question is, should you have been able to discriminate against Black people based on your Christianity? No, you never should have been able to do that. But our country is racist, and so we allowed you to do it for a while, and now we're telling you to stop. and we're going through that same fight with the LGBTQ community. And my answer, by the way, is the same. Should you ever have been able to do that? No. So now we're telling you to stop. Like,
I would assume that churches in general, especially Christian churches, have the hardest time with that. With the LGBTQ community, and that understanding that they fit within the religious liberty fight.
Oh yeah,
whereas it being a separate thing.
That's the toughest place. And by the way, as much as whether I support it or not is irrelevant, I tell those churches all the time, as a church, you shouldn't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And what you end up seeing is that churches are not upset because someone's making them do something, because nobody's actually making the church do anything. What they're upset about is that they get to see these other people that they disagree with live as fully as they do. That's the thing that bothers them. And it's like, no, you're someone who I think is less than me because you're more sinful. And because you're more sinful than I am, you shouldn't be able to live as well as I do.
Right.
That feels unfair to those people. And so they're like, we should stop them. And I'm like, no, because actually, when you defend their religious liberty, I said this, I was on another thing on the weekend, and I said this there too. When you defend their religious liberty, you're actually defending your own. Because if we draw the line here today, you may be on the popular side today, but you may be on the unpopular side tomorrow when we draw the line in a different place. And when you say y'all can't do that, what they're going to say is, but you were on our side yesterday. all we're doing is the same thing we were doing yesterday. And you won't have a comeback for that. So my thing is defend the religious liberty of everybody because I don't want you to take mine.
Sounds reasonable.
Jamari, you have a question? I do. I wanted to respond to something you said, but go ahead, Jamari.
Oh, the only thing, the very last thing is what I kind of had a response. The thing that I picked up on. There's a lot of it, but that was a big one because I'm a big believer in that aspect. Like, I feel like if there's things that I don't want people to attack me and mine on, in my community, so by protecting those liberties of other people, then I'm in effect of protecting my own, because I would want somebody. I know it's not an ideal world and everyone's not always going to pick up for everybody, but you got to start that somewhere.
Yeah. And that's the thing for me. And it's a growth process, right? Like I don't know that I felt this way in my 20s, even as I was calling myself a defender of religious liberty. Like, I mean, there is a growth, there's a growth process that we all have to go through, I think, to get to the place where we realize that what we want from others is what we must demand of ourselves. And to me, at least for me, religious liberty is the place where I get to live that out on a daily basis, where I say, look, I'm not doing this strictly because I care about my own. I actually care about your ability to live your life with as much freedom as possible too. But I also realize that there is an advantage for me in being in this space, and I've had to grow into that position. I will say this: it allows me to have a lot of grace for people who were where I was. You know what I mean? I mean, Javon, you know the way we grew up. Like the positions that we're talking about that people held are positions that were held by the people we grew up with, by the people who we grew up around and who taught us about Adventism and about God and about religion and about whatever. And so I don't look at those people and go, you need to get on my level. I mean, I do, but I also have the patience. I also have the patience for them, because I wouldn't talk at all if it was just like, you don't need to get on my level. No, you need to get on my level. But
right.
I have patience for that process because I just want you to get here. And however you end up here is really up to you.
So what are some common obstacles you got to deal with when you are educating people on this subject and keeping up with that information?
The teaching people about the difference between advocating for the ability of something versus advocating for the thing. So abortion is actually a good place to talk about this, which is also one of these hot button religious liberty issues. Regardless of how I feel about abortion, the act of abortion, I am pro-choice. Because truth be told, at some points in my life, I was anti-abortion. And at other times in my life, I've been like, I get it. Like I understand what's going on there. But regardless of how I feel about it, the same way that I'm allowed to make a decision about how I feel about it and then live in accordance with that decision, you should be able to do the same and come to different decisions than I do about those things based on your beliefs. So I tell people all the time, and once again, the LGBTQ community is a good example about this. I'm like, I don't care how you feel about same-sex relationships. How you feel about same-sex relationships is actually irrelevant to the question that I'm asking. Do those people have the ability to live their life as fully as you do? If they can't, they should. And if they do, then fine. Like it doesn't do anything to you to give those people the freedom to decide how to live their own lives the same way you decided how to live yours. I get to wake up every morning, and I don't do this every morning, but I get to wake up every morning and go, this is who I am. I'm an Adventist. I live by these principles. Someone should be able to get up in the morning and say, I'm something that's not an Adventist, and get the ability to live by the same principles the same way I can. And I'm advocating for that, for them to be able to do that, even if I disagree with what they are. Like, I don't believe in Satanism, but you know what? I believe in your ability to decide that you want to wake up and be a Satanist. Like in the same way that I get to wake up and say that I'm an Adventist, I can advocate for the ability for you to make your own decisions, even if I would disagree with the decisions that you make. By the way, while we're here, that's what God does. Because God doesn't agree with everything that we do, and yet he allows us to make our own decisions. It's the same thing. All I'm trying to do is be like Jesus. Wait a second. Oh, that's what Christianity is. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice how that all came together that way?
Well,
like all I'm trying to do is do what Jesus would do. And what I know Jesus does is allow me to make my own mind up.
I've always looked at this like, and maybe I came from, because you know, for those that don't know, I was originally Baptist. I was Baptist till about 11 years old. My mom grew up Seventh-day Adventist and then became Baptist. And then I was born and I was Baptist for the first 10 years of my life. And then I came up and she, you know, rejoined the Seventh-day Adventist faith. And then I was many people don't know this, but I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I didn't want to become a Seventh-day Adventist. I did not want to do it. I wanted to stay and be a Baptist. And so my mom was like, okay, but you got to do both. Like, you got to go to church on Saturday and you got to go to church on Sunday. And so I did that for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I can't have church all weekend. Irony being, I ended up having church all weekend anyway as a Seventh-day
That's
Adventist.
right.
Like, seriously.
Shout out to the Pathfinders. Shout out to the
Pathfinders, AY, everything. But I've always looked at it like differently, because you grow up in one faith and you become another. And like, I always look at it in both faiths. I've always looked at it. Both faiths believe that they are right, and everything that they're saying is right in gospel, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you're not in that faith, you're not living right. And so for me, I've always been like, so wait, was I not living right as a Baptist? I was still in church. Like, so like, that's how I used to take it as a kid. And so I reached this point where I was like, you know what? I was fine as a Baptist. I'm fine as a Seventh-day Adventist. So I've always been open to other people being whatever they are. And my point being, I think there's a certain level of indoctrination, you know, that, you know, people who grew up in certain faiths and they hold them so hard, because for them, it almost seems like to acknowledge that another faith is valid might invalidate their faith. Like, it's one or it's, you know, it's either all or nothing.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with you about that. It's like, if you don't have to do what I'm doing, then why do I have to do it?
Exactly. Like, what's the point? Like, if you make the choice to do, like, if you make the choice to be a Catholic, then wait a minute. So why am I doing this if there's a possibility that you might be right and I might be wrong?
Or that we both can be right. Like,
right.
If you're going to end up in the same heaven that I'm going to end up in,
right, and
you're doing stuff that, and I'm living a way that you're not living, well, then why am I living this way?
Right.
Like
I've always thought that was the crux of religious liberty. Like,
it's
to me, I've always thought of it that way.
It bothers a lot of people to realize that we are going to, and this is my belief. You can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think that I am. I think it's really going to bother a lot of people to see who's in heaven. You know, like it'll bother people. It'll really bother people, because, like,
you know, I've thought about that a lot too.
Because people will feel real guilty, because they will feel like they've missed they'll feel like they missed out on life. Right.
I've always looked at it as my way is right, and if you don't believe me and agree with me, I'll kill you.
That's about right.
Unfortunately,
it gets about right for a lot of people.
To that level. But really, what it is that people, like the homie said, people don't want to be living that way. They're living that way because they think living that way will get them into heaven. So then they're gonna get to heaven and be like, "Wait, I could have drank. and got here. I could have smoked and got here. I didn't have to go to church on Saturday and I could still get here. Like, folk gonna be mad. Folk gonna be real mad. Man, because they're gonna feel like they missed out on something in life by not being able to do whatever the particular sin is that they really want to do, that they gonna see somebody in heaven haven't done that. They're gonna be like, man, I know you did some stuff that I really wanted to do. How did we both end up here together?
And they're gonna be real surprised at some of the people who don't make it.
Right. But the fact of the matter is the Bible already tells us that.
Right.
It's gonna be these people who did all of this real churchy stuff that Jesus is gonna be like, yeah, I don't know you. I don't know you. Because when people really needed help, you didn't help them. When somebody was stuck out there, you didn't have a helping hand for them. Those are the people that really know me. Those are the people that really know me. And I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to follow the path the best way that I know how. I'm going to trust that you're following the path the best way that you know how. And I'm going to trust even more that God is going to figure all that out and I don't have to.
And that's really what it boils down to. A lot of people feel, and we're getting real religious on my show, but that's all right. Because we go everywhere. And I appreciate this. I've been wanting to have this conversation before. We almost had this conversation. Who do we have on the show?
We had somebody.
Yes,
we had somebody
almost
on.
went there. It would be really nice if the two of y'all were on the show because I would love.
I was thinking that earlier, to be honest.
Oh man. But anyway, like it really boils down to people want to judge, right? Like we can't help it. Like I don't care who you are, you judge, and I think and I'm not saying I do this, but if let's say I'm in the Seventh-day Adventist church and I see, somebody, and I know a friend, let's say we have a friend who was in the church and then left the church because we have friends who
I was about to say we have friends like that.
Right. That are like, yeah, this because there's hypocrisy in the church, but that's a different story. But they were like, no, this is not for me. And they're out kind of living a secular life, but And I might look at them and be like, man, they not on the path anymore. But the truth of the matter is they might be closer to the path than I am. But I don't know their life. Yep. I'm only seeing the fact that they're not in church.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like that to me, like, that's when I think of religious liberty, that's when I think of. I think people struggling with the fact that what I'm doing in my heart is right. And because it's right in my heart, everybody else is wrong. And if everybody else isn't wrong, then am I right?
Yeah. But let me be fair to those people. We can dunk on those people all night, and I do that for a living. But let me be fair to those people. There are those true believers who really think that my faith requires that I take this particular stand against you. And
right.
and they will tell you, I don't have anything personally against whoever that person is.
Right.
But my faith is telling me that I can't join them or be connected to them in any way in the thing that they're doing. Like I get the common example that's running through the religious liberty ethos right now are these wedding vendors, right? So whether you're a baker or one of them is a website developer who doesn't want to make a wedding website for a same-sex wedding, like these people are saying, no, but my belief system is telling me that I can't help you do this bad thing. Like what you're doing is a bad thing in my understanding, and I am not allowed to help you do that bad thing. And I have a lot of empathy for the anxiety that must produce. But what I would say is there are modes of Christianity where you don't have to feel that way. and you can still be a Christian and not have to feel that way. And you should open yourself up to the idea that maybe it's the thought process, it's the idea that's wrong, not the outgrowth of that. And so what I try to get people to see is it's that there's a logical step in what you're doing. It isn't just, gay people bad, ergo I can't do this. There are several steps in between, and you can still have, the starting point that you have and come to a different endpoint. Those things are possibilities, and you can still hold on to your faith and still be kind to people and still serve people. Like there's a way to do that. And if you're interested in hearing about that, then it's a conversation I want to have with you.
I've always... Oh, go ahead, Jamari.
See, now you got me thinking about other situations that have come up within this realm. For example, when you have the lines of, okay, I am my religion says this, as as you kind of use an example, but I'm in a government position that requires me to give everybody this service, or I'm a medical professional and I feel this way, but my religion says I should not be giving this treatment, or I should not be giving this treatment to certain people.
Right. So when we're dealing, so those two things, we actually have to deal with them a little bit differently, because the example of the medical professional, there are protections of conscience for medical professionals where you actually, once again, I was on a different thing this weekend, and somebody mentioned this, and it's true. So let's talk about what we're talking about. There is no medical professional that has to help with an abortion or a gender reassignment surgery or any other type of thing that they disagree with. The hospital has to make a reasonable accommodation for your religious beliefs. And so you need to, what often happens in situations like that is people have not made their lines clear until they find themselves in the position, and then they assert it. And it's like, well, now we're stuck. We didn't know you had this problem. We would have done something for you if we knew that you had it, but you never said anything. And now the rubber's meeting the road, and we got to figure out what we're going to do. And that's really unfair of the religious adherent to not share what their issues are.
Right.
So for example, when I was working at the law firm, the very first law firm that I worked at, the first thing they said to us when we came through the door was, one of our clients is Philip Morris, the smoking manufacturer. If you have a problem working for Philip Morris, let us know. We won't assign you to any of that stuff. And I said to them, yeah, I got a problem with that. And they never assigned me to any of it. But what a lot of us do is we go along to get along for whatever reason. And then we find ourselves in a place where we feel like our conscience is bothered. And then we try to assert it, and then we have a problem. When you're a medical professional, to go back to the thesis, if you're a medical professional, there is no thing that you have to participate in if your conscience is bothering you about it. But you have to be clear about it, and they will make sure that you don't have to. But so that's medical professionals.
Okay, so to clarify, as you said, you don't have to participate in a assignment surgery if that's a thing, or things like that. So, but what if it is so I'm guessing far-fetched situation, surgeon, emergency situation, and trans person, they don't believe in helping trans people in any way.
Don't have to do it.
Oh, okay.
Because especially in that situation, if you've made your lines clear about
if you've made your lines clear,
then somebody else will have to do that. Now we can fashion the situation where it would be problematic. Like, let's say you're the only doctor there. Okay. Then in that situation, you would have to.
Really?
Because you're not allowed to let a person die because you won't
do no harm. Right.
So from an ethics perspective, and of course the liability of the hospital, if you ended up being the only doctor there, then yeah, and it's not, say, a gender reassignment of surgery or an abortion or something that is one of these hot button issues. It's just giving emergency care.
Yes.
Then no, you would have to do it if you're the only person there.
Okay. Yeah.
But
okay.
even if, but if you're not, then you just make sure the hospital has to make a reasonable accommodation, and usually they can.
Does the military have these assurances as
No,
well?
and the reason why, now that's where we go to the separate thing, where if we're talking about government officials, that's different, because when you're a government official, you kind of have to leave your conscience at the door, because then you're not yourself. You're what we call an agent of the state. So if you're an agent of the state, then you have to do what the state would do, not what you would do, because you're not you. When you're a judge, for example, so let's say, for instance, you're a judge in a state that allows same-sex marriages. You could feel however you want about same-sex marriage. You better go ahead and marry them people.
But wait, if the state, oh, so okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. So you're saying if the state allows same-sex marriages, you by law have to do it. You can't just get another judge and be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. You do it.
Yeah, no. If it's assigned to you, then it'll have to be, and that's where we get into what Roy is saying in the comment section. If the hospital assigns it to you, then you have to do it anyway, because you can't discriminate. But what you can say to the hospital is, I would like to avoid these situations. Okay. You can say to the hospital, I would like to avoid these situations, but the fact of the matter is, we're sort of splitting the difference here, right? You can tell the hospital what your issues are, but if the hospital decides not to listen to them, the hospital can't discriminate. Now you can have beef with the hospital and see where you get with that, but I'm going to tell you that you're not going to get very far.
No,
but the hospital has to make reasonable accommodations.
Now, legally, can the hospital like these assurances, like, let's say, I'm trying to figure out, they're not asking you this, and Roy probably knows this, but they're not asking you this stuff. Do they ask you for the assurances like ahead of time?
They may not
have to volunteer.
You would have to volunteer them.
Okay, so are they able to be like, well,
yeah, they can decide. They can decide that they're not going to do it. Yeah, they can decide that.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, can they decide to be like, well, we, basically be like, well, we're going to let you go if you start saying, yeah, if you start bringing up your assurances after the fact.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're asking. So if you bring your assurances up after the fact and then you refuse, you can be fired.
Really?
Yeah.
So now it becomes a thing where you essentially have to be proactive in that regard.
Oh yeah.
Okay. See, now this is that whole thing of the educational part, because this is the getting your facts straight. Because I do believe there's a lot of people that would believe I did not know in the medical instance that there are reasonable accommodations that are made. But
in every profession, they are required to make what we call reasonable accommodations. Now, the difference with healthcare is because healthcare is such an emergency field, we may not be able to make a reasonable accommodation in a particular circumstance.
Right.
But if they can, then they should. And that's where the argument is going to be when you then try to sue the hospital for religious discrimination. Is, were we in a situation where a reasonable accommodation could be made? And here's what ends up happening. If we're talking about that emergency situation, and it will come down to the facts of every particular case. If we're coming down to an emergency situation, sometimes a reasonable accommodation can't be made. You got to save that person's life. And so then you have to decide for yourself what that's going to be.
Say an emergency abortion, because maybe the baby is jeopardizing the woman's life.
Abortion is going to be tough because we're living in a different world now. Than we were. Like, if we were having this conversation, if we were having this conversation 4 months ago, I could tell you more readily what the answer would be in, say, for instance, an emergency abortion where something happened to the baby and now we're like, oh wait, it's the life of the baby, or it's the life of the
but it's
mother.
contingent on whatever the state is, right?
And now it becomes contingent on what state it's in, and yeah.
Mm.
It's that I can't even begin to. I mean, I could begin to speculate, but there's a high probability of being wrong about whatever your speculation is going to be about where we are in terms of abortion.
User asks, "Am I guessing private practice is different too?"
Yes. Well, no. Here's the thing that I'm sort of not saying is there are certain protected classes where you can't refuse. So, for example, you can't go to the hospital and say I refuse to work on Black people because race is a protected class.
Is sexuality protected?
Not everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that similar, like based on state? Is that state by state?
State by state.
Now, why is race? What's the legal
built into an amendment?
Reason? Yeah, is that in the amendment, or is this?
Well, really, what we're talking about here is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which lays out certain classes, what we call protected classes, where you can't discriminate. Gender is there, but sexuality is not. And so there are some states. Colorado is a good example, which is why a lot of these cases come out of Colorado, because Colorado does protect sexuality. So you couldn't refuse in Colorado, but there are some places where you can refuse. And one of the things that some legislators have been trying to do is add sexuality to the list of things in the Civil Rights Act that is protected, and they have been getting pushback from conservatives about adding that to that. But yeah, so there are certain things, and this is my fault for not saying this. I skipped over a step. There are certain things that you can't refuse. You can't refuse race. You can't refuse because of gender. You can't refuse because of age. So you can't say I don't want to work on old people. They're gonna die anyway. No, you have to work on old people. There are a bunch of different classifications that are protected under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and those classes you can't make religious accommodations for those classes.
What about and this is my last question, and then we're gonna move to something a little lighter. What about if somebody has AIDS and you're working in the medical field, is that under that banner, or can you be like this?
Yes, because AIDS is considered a disability, which is protected.
Oh, okay.
And so of course you have to make, once again, and of course we are now in a state with our understanding of AIDS where it's like, if you take your necessary precautions, the transmission of AIDS is not a concern. So what courts have said is you can't do that, one, because AIDS is a disability, but also because you're really not in any danger so long as you are taking the precautions that you'd be taking as a medical professional anyway. Like, you would be wearing gloves anyway. You'd be wearing a face mask anyway. You'd be protecting yourself from that stuff anyway. And so if you do that, you should be fine.
But we got close with this with COVID, right?
It's standard precautions.
But we got close with this with COVID because there was a time during the quarantine and everything where people were like, man, I don't really want to work I don't want to work with people who have COVID. So is that under that same branch, or how
that would be a good question. I don't know that we ever solved it for COVID, but
there were a lot of people in the profession that left it, from my understanding.
Right. There were a lot of people that were like, I'm not doing this anymore.
And of course, the other thing about COVID is that because of the way things happened, they weren't able to give people that standard, that reasonable standard of protection. So really what they're now asking people to do is go and put yourself in front of a highly contagious disease without without the protections that you would need in order to keep yourself where now you can't do standard precautions because we're not prepared for that. But we're still going to ask you to go in there anyway. That, by the way, is a separate thing from a religious liberty question. That's just more of a straight up.
Well, it mostly wasn't referring to the standard. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. I don't know if we've ever specifically said that COVID would be under, because all of that type of sickness stuff would be under a disability.
Right.
And I don't know that we ever made that distinction. I can't answer that question with any confidence.
Right. Because it happened so fast. And I was wondering if like it was like ever discussed. But now I mean I enjoyed the religious liberty talk and I'll probably have you on to do some more. Might have some more
people asking more questions. Extremely educational.
I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for like a long time. Like no joke. Like since like you started doing it. But you know, when we get together, it's like I ain't trying to like make you work. I ain't trying to make hey, come on, man, answer my question. Come on, man. But I do want people to get another opportunity to get to know you. Now, I know that you are an avid Philadelphia sports fan.
Yes, I
am. You are a Sixers fan.
Yes.
You are an Eagles fan.
Kind of, but the NFL makes me mad.
I was going to ask. Okay. Are you still boycotting the NFL?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I have not been back.
You have not watched one game?
No. Not unless I was at somebody else's house and they had the game on. Because once again,
you're supposed to go
I'm not gonna make you change the channel because I'm there. Like that's stupid. Like I don't watch football, so y'all can't either. Like that's very conservative.
But I never understood. I never understood why you boycotted.
Because the racism was too much for me, man. Like what it was the straw that broke the camel's back was really what it was. It was just like, come on, you guys. I mean, we're gonna blackball the dude from the league for nothing, like because we don't want to acknowledge that it'd be hard out here for black people. Like if you don't want to acknowledge that it'd be hard out here for black people, then you can't get my money no more. You know, and so do I generally know things about football? Like, yes, because I mean I'm a sports fan, so I hear about it. Do I know that the Eagles are 3-0? Of course I know that. But
so wait,
but have I seen
you didn't break down and watch the Super Bowl?
No, in fact, I mean, you're talking about. I'm assuming you're talking about the Super Bowl that they won.
Yes.
Yes. I purposefully put myself on a plane so I didn't have to watch it.
Wow. I respect that, man.
Now here's the funny part.
But you know what though?
My flight got delayed, so I ended up watching like the second quarter in the airport.
In the lounge.
Yeah, because I was in the airport. I saw the Philly special live and then got on a plane and I mean we can talk about. You almost
made me curse.
Let's talk about that Super Bowl all night, Javon.
No, we don't have to talk about it together at all. We don't have to talk about that because I sat in a room with other Philly fans, so I don't need to talk about that. I mean, we could talk about what Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb. We could do that. I mean, we have that conversation. All right, then.
Don't need to do that, but we can talk about the most recent one.
No, I mean the most recent Patriots Super Bowl that we won. Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah. I'm sure. You know, you didn't watch it, so I can walk it through.
No, I'm good. No, I'm good.
But I've always respected that because I've always had the people who boycotted it. You know, during the Kaepernick thing, I've always questioned why. Like every time somebody would tell me, well, I'm boycotting it. And I'd be like, well, why? And they'd be like, well, because Colin Kaepernick can't get back in the league. And I'm like, well, are you boycotting it until he gets a job? Or are you boycotting it because of like what is your reasoning behind it? And you might be the first person that was like, y'all racist and I'm not messing with y'all. Like basically, and that one makes sense to me to a degree. Because in my mind, I feel like that racism has always been there.
And that's fair.
But I get that it's a straw that broke the camel's back thing. Like okay, like I get it. But I respect the fact that you've held out, like, because you and I have talked, and I've always been like, you still not watching football? You're like, nope.
I have not watched a game. I have not watched the game. Let me say this: I haven't watched the game in its entirety since that Eagles season where they won the Super Bowl. That was the season right after Kaepernick. I did not watch an entire game. I did not watch an entire game.
You got a point. Rory says, if
Fair
I
enough.
boycotted everything run by racists, that's another thing. Like, you know, if there's racism is so ingrained in everything. Like, my logic
It's
is
fair.
like, dude, I don't have the energy or to start nitpicking.
It's a fair comment. What it was for me was I couldn't stop seeing it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't want to be thinking about this when I'm watching football. And now I've gotten to a place where I can't ignore it anymore. And because I can't ignore it anymore, I can't watch it. You know, because yeah, I mean, I agree with what. Like, I mean, yes, come on, man. I mean, we all like. Did anyone think that Jerry Jones was the paragon of equality? Like, no. Like, but I could ignore it. And what the Kaepernick thing did for me was I could no longer ignore it. And because I could no longer ignore it, because I'm sitting there watching the game mad about racism, not about what's happening in the game. Like, and I appreciate everybody who comes from the mindset of, this is the thing that helps me to escape that reality. And so I'm going to continue to engage in it. I get that, and I'm okay with it. And I'm not asking anybody to walk the path that I'm walking. For me, it got to a place where it was like, every time I'm watching a football game, I'm sitting here thinking about racism.
But I respect the fact that you've never pushed on other people. You've never like, well, y'all silly, y'all crazy because y'all not you still watching it. Like you like, I know a lot of people who do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are a lot of people I know who are boycotting it, and they're like, well, you know, y'all some Uncle Toms that's still watching it, and da. And I'm just like, how does that help your cause?
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. Truth be told, you know, when football is on in a household, I'll sit and watch it. Like, I'll engage with it. Like, if it's on and it's there, because usually I'm with people that I want to be with, and I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm gonna go sit in the corner until y'all done watching the game. Like that's so ridiculous.
Like, I'll text you guys.
Oh, I heard y'all laughing at that joke downstairs. I also thought it was funny. Like,
that sounds like you guys are having a good time.
I wish I could say my sabbatical from the NFL had anything to do with racism. It had everything to do with
Jamari was dealing with heartbreak.
Yeah, it was trauma. It was trauma from being a Falcons fan.
Oh yeah. No, y'all. None of y'all should be fans. None of y'all should be NFL fans. Y'all should just go start a support group and and be there.
Yeah, it's just
being a Falcons fan is being part of a support group. That's the dirty little secret.
No, but they should. Well, my point is they should do it without watching the football.
Oh, I got you.
I mean, well, and that's why people will ask me, "Did you watch the game?" I was like, "Why am I going to put myself through that trauma?"
Yeah.
But so does your wife? Like, your wife loves this, right? She's got to love the fact that you're not like, I got to be on every Sunday that the season's on.
You know, I have never really asked her, but I guess that's probably true. And to respond to what Roy said, I mean, that's really, I mean, my boycott is that. Like, I said, what do I have that I can control? Right. I have my television and I have my clicks. So I don't click on stuff that is directly affiliated with the NFL. I don't watch the NFL. Like I don't give them my ratings. I don't give them my clicks. Like, that's the thing. So especially that first year, I would read coverage of the Eagles so long as it wasn't NFL or team-sponsored coverage. Like, you know, there are all these private Eagle blogs.
Right. Eagle forums and everything. Yeah.
I'd have no problem going to those and getting updates on the games. I would have no problem watching highlights of the game that weren't the NFL. like the actual NFL highlights. So I would have to go onto YouTube like right after the game before the NFL pulled those YouTube channels down.
Oh, the workarounds, man. Oh man. So
Before
that's
the
a good
NFL
question. What did you replace it with?
Well, the real answer is my kids, but I'm way more into the Sixers now than I was when I was primarily an Eagles fan.
I see that though.
So
Yeah,
you're so into them now. Like it's almost like you doubled up.
Yeah,
So
that's what it is.
So is your boy gonna come in with a chip on his shoulder and actually win the MVP like he should have last year?
You mean like he should have the last 2 years?
He shouldn't have won. I'm gonna tell you why he shouldn't have won. You got to be healthy. To be an MVP, you got to be healthy.
Okay, first year
he misses way too many games.
That first year, I think that's true. Last year, I don't think it was.
Last year he was last year. He didn't miss that many games.
But most of it. Hold on, most of it was COVID, and I'm giving grace for COVID. Like
but that's what I'm saying. Like if you got Jokic, and I didn't agree with Jokic winning. I agree. I think I agreed that Embiid should have won. Either Embiid or Giannis should have won the MVP.
Right.
I didn't believe that Jokic is a back-to-back MVP person. Yeah. Like you can't tell me that he's a back-to-back. That was crazy. But like I get like a voter is like, well, Jokic played X amount of games and Embiid played X amount of games.
Because the dude barely run up and down the court, dog. Like you can play 82 when you move as slow as that dude move. Anyway, to answer your question, Jamari, let me not hate on Jokic because I mean he's a great player. I actually don't think he's going to win the MVP this year, but I actually think the Sixers will get further than they've gotten. I think he's going to be. Well, number one, I don't think he has to do as much as he had to do last year with the squad that they have around him this year. This is really the first year that they have been able to entirely cater a team to him. Last year, they weren't able to do it because they were sort of building on the fly after they traded for Harden and all that stuff. Yeah. And then the years before that, they were trying to build around him and Simmons, and their two games didn't mesh. So you needed anyway, Roy, you needed the. Come on, why did you even put it on the screen? Does it automatically?
Because I want people to know that this man is a doctor. This man is a college. This man is an educated young man, and he's going to sit here and say that LeBron James is going to be MVP in year 20. Listen, I like LeBron James as a person. Okay, I don't like him as a basketball player because he's beating my team. Like, I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. I have sports hate for LeBron. That's not real hate, people. The sports hate. Real talk. He's a great guy, great person. He's a great man. He's not winning MVP.
He's a great man.
He's a great man. He's not winning MVP. My thing is, the thing about the Sixers though, the Sixers will not. It doesn't matter how Embiid does. To me,
yeah,
because Embiid has pretty much been constant. He's been consistent. He is what he is. They will not go farther based on what Embiid does.
Right, that's right.
If Harden balls to his MVP levels, they can go further. But if he plays like he did last year, that's going to be a first round exit again because the East is too hard.
He doesn't have to go quite that high, but
I would. Here's what I would say to you.
I think he does though. The East is so hard this year.
Harden could play as well as he played last year. Because here's the crazy thing about how Harden played last year. People would kill for the season that Harden had last year. Like there are superstars that wish they could do 21, 7, and 10. Like, you know, so if Harden plays the way he played last year, they can still be great, but they're going to need more from Maxey. But my point is, they're going to need another jump from Maxey anyway. Like, even if Harden balls out, they're going to need a jump from Maxey anyway. So they're going to need a jump from Maxey anyway. And I think they're going to need
Maxey, but they need.
And I think they're absolutely going to.
Harden, but
he's probably going to have to be the number 2, honestly.
Because The only reason I say that is when you look at the East, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking about the East. Just getting to the Eastern Conference Final. You guys never been to the Eastern Conference Final, or
not this
never.
iteration.
Not this iteration, right? You still got Boston. I mean, Boston's still going to be good.
No, they don't. No, they won't.
I mean, listen to the hate, man.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
You got the Bucks.
Y'all need a knee along. Hey.
Oh wow. Okay.
You trying to hurt me. I didn't try and hurt you. I could have hurt you as a Sixers fan. I really could have hurt you as a Sixers fan.
That man might have been messing with
I held the guns in my pocket, in the holster.
No, but let me say it seriously. Let me say it seriously, and I'll say it as a Sixers fan. I don't think fans really understand how distracting.
Yo, I hate you, man. I hate you, dude. I hate you so much.
That was great.
Is that Mama Hines?
Yeah, that is Mama Hines. Mom's is in the.
I had to do it once. That's Mama Hines. I love Mama Hines. That's my other mama. I got 4 mamas, yo.
You got 4 mamas. Okay? We all got 4 mamas.
I got my mama. I got Mama Kellerman, Mama Hines, and Mama Bernard, and I love all 4 of them. I got 4 mamas. You can throw. Hey. Let me. I got 5. Okay. I always gotta respect Miss Richardson. That's my 5th.
Yep. Yeah.
Francine. Right. Now we doing shout outs. But I do.
So here's what I'll say. Go
ahead.
I think fans don't understand how distracting it is to have other stuff going on around your team that isn't about the game. Yeah. So I really do think that the Ben Simmons stuff held the Sixers back last year. I think I think the stuff that Boston is going through, I'm making jokes about it, but I think the stuff that Boston is going through, that's going to hold them back this year. Like, part of the reason why I'm not as high on Boston as I would like to be is because they're going to have to answer that question every day. When they have a tough loss, it's going to be, do you think your coach could have helped you? You know, and that stuff is just annoying. It throws athletes. I agree. It tends to throw athletes off their game. I don't think they're going to be as good this year. And
I'm not saying that with them
having a better roster than they had last year.
I'm not saying they're going to be as good. Like, I would love it if they made the finals. I'm just talking about the strength of the conference.
Fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough.
So Boston is going to be competitive. Like, Tatum and Brown are too good, even with all the stuff that's going on, right?
Cleveland's probably going to be fun.
Milwaukee is still Milwaukee. Yep. Like, Giannis is just getting better, like, which is the scary thing. Like, that dude is still getting better every season.
Still going to be
that's ridiculous. The Brooklyn, you can't ignore Durant and Irving. Like, who knows if Irving plays X amount of
what
games.
They would be. Yeah,
but you still can't ignore Kevin Durant. Like, that would be foolish. Atlanta got better.
Yes.
Cleveland got better.
Yes.
Like, there's just so many teams. Atlanta got better, dude. DeJounte Murray.
I like the backcourt.
Really good player.
I really do. Look, I love the backcourt.
But what I would argue, there are a lot of teams that got better, but I think the top 4 is still the top 4.
But what I'm saying is that Miami too. What am I talking about? Miami. I mean, I don't think Miami got better, but Miami is still Miami though.
So here's what I would say to you. I would say the 4 to me are Philly, Boston, Milwaukee, and then either Brooklyn or Miami, depending on how that shakes out.
Yeah.
So I have 5, but it's really, I'm telling you it's 4 because I think between Miami and Brooklyn, one of them will not be as good as we think they are. So it's going to be those 4.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Miami, only because I don't think Miami actually got better.
Right.
Like, they mostly have the same people, right? They just have Jimmy Butler, who's another year older. And then they're minus
PJ Tucker, who's in Philadelphia.
And they minus PJ Tucker, who was a pain in the behind.
Mm-hmm.
Stacey, friends, listen, they have this thing called a phone. They even have this thing called Skype. All right, y'all trying to have conversations over comments. All right, I don't know how y'all try to do that. I know we all haven't seen each other. Listen, for those that don't know, this is all Faith Seventh-day Adventist Church. All right,
Yeah, this is all faith people in here hanging out, watching the conversation.
Right, we were all raised within faith. I owe so much of myself and who I am to faith. My best friends all go to faith or all went to faith at some point or another.
Right.
So when we talked about being Seventh-day Adventists, that's what we're talking about. Faith Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hartford. And so like we were both raised within it. You mentioned Pathfinders and AY and all that stuff, and we're going over, but you know, it's a special show. So I haven't talked to my friend in who knows how long, and the babies I can't hear the babies in his background or my background. So I'm taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
right. We're taking advantage of it. But you know, we were all raised in I mean, use a really, really interesting word, but we were forged in Pathfinders and AY and Genesis and drum corps and all this other stuff. And I really do there's value in what we went through. I know we joke about it because we all went through it, but you know, going to camping, like a lot of kids that I know in high school, Roy said back to sports. We will listen. We probably gonna go watch the games on Sundays. You gotta. We really do have, because your kids haven't met my kids.
Yeah. We got to take a trip up to Connecticut.
I mean, like
Lil was just mentioning it the other day. We got to find some time to do it.
Yeah, but Malcolm's kids haven't met our kids.
To piggyback on it though, I tell people all the time. I said this for years when I was in my 20s. Like any success I've ever had is attributed to the fact that I was a Pathfinder. Like all of that life skill stuff that they taught.
Pathfinders is like, it's like Boy Scout, Girl Scouts for Adventists.
Thank you for doing that.
I know. But Jamari's kind of you were looking, and I know other people who watch might not know what the heck we're talking about.
Right.
It's basically like
I'm listening.
No, I know, but I'm giving you back.
I don't. So this is all completely new to me.
That's why I'm explaining it.
So yeah, all of that stuff comes from that, and all of these people that you see in chat are people who come out of that system, and it bonds us all together, I think, in a really, really special way. Now I agree with Roy. Back to sports.
All right, we can go back to sports. So yeah, so anyway, like, you know, the Sixers, I do think the Sixers will be good, but to me, their ceiling is which chat? Lord have mercy. I don't know who that is. I think their ceiling is whatever Harden brings.
Right. That's fair. That's a fair take.
Just like I can say for Giannis in Milwaukee, their ceiling is whatever Middleton can. Yeah. You know, in Boston, their ceiling is Jaylen Brown.
I was about to say it's Jaylen Brown.
And the Nets, really, their ceiling is Kyrie.
Yeah, their ceiling is Kyrie.
I mean, if he decides,
in Miami, it's Bam. In Miami, it's Bam, which is why they don't never really get nowhere. Miami, it's Bam.
Yeah, don't do that, man. Why you
there's nothing wrong with that, because Bam kind of is the person. But once they get into the playoffs, if he's the second option, they don't have. His skill set just doesn't work.
That's not true, though. They just made the Eastern Conference Finals.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying they're not competitive.
I'm just saying
they're
though, like, they just went to 7 games. Like, they could have won that finals if, like, I think Bam had to be a little more assertive.
That's Bam's problem. It's not like, Bam's game unless what Jamari means is that Bam is not assertive. Because if Bam did in the playoffs, and he can. It's just for whatever reason he's too deferential in the playoffs. Yeah, he looked like Jimmy Butler gonna punch him in the stomach if he shoot a shot.
Probably.
I believe Jimmy might.
Jimmy might punch him in the stomach.
He might really do it.
Don't mess with Jimmy Butler. Like I have all the
I
respect.
feel like him and
Listen,
Russell Westbrook's kind of the same dude sometimes.
I gained another level of respect for Jimmy Butler watching that Eastern Conference Finals last year.
Yeah,
I
Jimmy
was
Butler's
like,
the truth, yo.
this dude keep breaking a foot off in the Boston Celtics behind over and over again. Every time
Jimmy
they think
Butler's
they
the
had the Heat beat, he just came and stuffed his foot right up their collective butt. And it was just like, dude, like, die.
There is no quitting
Just
that
die.
dog.
Yeah, there really isn't. There really isn't. I got
But
a lot of respect for
that's
Jimmy
why
Butler.
they're dangerous, though. Because if it wasn't for Jimmy, nobody's talking about Miami Heat. Like, I like Bam,
Sure.
but like Jimmy is the reason why.
So I'll go with what you're saying. Bam probably he needs to find a way to assert and dominate, not in the same way as a Giannis, but he has to have at least moments where he's the best dude on the court.
Yep.
But you can't deny Cleveland and Atlanta being spoilers. Especially Donovan Mitchell can ball.
But I can though. And the reason
how
why
you gonna deny the Heat? I mean the Hawks.
I'm gonna deny the Hawks, and I'm a Hawks fan.
I wouldn't do that, man. I wouldn't ignore the Hawks like that.
Okay,
take somebody.
All right, let me tell you.
I don't think Atlanta has enough in their front court to do it.
Team to watch, no doubt. They're gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Guess what's gonna be the problem? If they don't address the thing that's really been the problem with the team since they had their improbable run, they don't play defense in the regular season.
Yeah. But you know what though? Their problem, and you and I have talked about this before. Their problem is they built their team around. It's a problem and a benefit. They built their team around what's his name? Trey. And Trey is an undersized point guard.
Yeah.
And every team,
you're always gonna have problems on defense.
Right. Every team literally gets at him on a regular. They're like,
he is a
whoever they're best. They literally get him, but he's also like what keeps him in the game, though.
Right.
But
that's also why I can't really get into Atlanta as spoilers because
I think they can spoil somebody in the first round.
I think they have inherent deficiencies that mess them up. And I think in the same way that Donovan Mitchell shoots you into games, Donovan Mitchell shoots you out of games, so I just don't. I'm gonna have to see it first in Cleveland before I believe that they're really gonna spoil anybody. Are they better? Yes.
Yeah.
To be fair, he's not stuck in with Rudy Gobert who can't defend at the perimeter. Fair
point.
Who teams are literally like searching that dude out. And they're just like, all right, you stay in the paint. I'm just going to shoot right over you.
Well, I feel like the Cleveland situation is now his chance to show you what one or two things. A couple of things are going to happen. Either he's going to rise to the occasion, or the deficiencies that have always been there are going to become more glaring because if they can't make it, it's going to be those things that pop them. But I feel like they're a better chance of a spoiler than Atlanta is.
I agree too. That's exactly
Atlanta's going to be fun to watch. League Pass. They're going to have energy. I think they'll probably do a little bit better in the season. But like you said, there's too many teams that have jumped up already. And yeah, they got better, but did they get better enough to get into the top four?
No, they didn't. But that to me is why, and Roy said it earlier where he was like the East is stacked. Like we're talking about teams 6 and 7. You know what I mean? And and that they can make noise. And when was the last time we could really say that about the East where we were like, yo, teams 6 and 7 could really do something?
I'm trying to remember who 6 and 7 was last year.
The reason why you don't remember
No, it's Cleveland. It was Cleveland.
No, Cleveland didn't make it. Cleveland was in the play-in.
Cleveland didn't make the play-in. Who made
7 and 8 were Atlanta. They played their way in.
Atlanta played their way in.
Oh, wait, I take that back. No, Cleveland.
No, Atlanta played their way in because they played
Atlanta
Miami.
Played their way in.
We could just look this up, gentlemen.
We could, but I'm not going through all that. So who do you think is coming out the West?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, Brooklyn was 6.
Oh,
Brooklyn
that's it. So and none of them folk made noise. No.
I take great pleasure in Brooklyn not making noise.
I really did. I took personal glee.
I really savored that.
Swept.
I mean, so did
Savored
I, and I don't even like Boston. Like
I think there's a lot of people who savored that. So who do you think? So I got one more question, but I'm going to ask you about this before I ask that question.
Right.
Who do you think is coming out of the West?
I have no idea. Like none. I want to say something crazy like Dallas, but I don't think they have enough around Luka to actually do it.
I think it's going to be the Warriors again.
I was about to say, my heart wants me to say the Warriors. You guys know how much I like the Warriors. I have liked the Warriors over time. I just think they play a brand of basketball that I like to see, that I like to watch.
Memphis, maybe.
Memphis.
Nah.
Maybe. Well, hey, listen, respect Memphis because they had those dudes on the ropes. If this dude doesn't get hurt, that's a different series. If Ja doesn't get hurt,
my only complaint with rooting for Golden State for any reason is I feel the same way about Draymond is how you used to feel about Chris Bosh when he was with the Heat. Javon.
Hey man, but they still won though.
They did win.
They still won.
They did win, and again, it gave Draymond an excuse to run.
See, that sounded really bad. I have nothing against Chris Bosh, by the way. I have nothing against Chris Bosh. I don't know where he went with that, but I don't. What do I have against Chris Bosh?
No, when he was with the Heat, you definitely had an issue.
No, I didn't. I had a Heat.
No, you know what you had an issue with?
Let's keep it real. When they were on the Heat, I had a problem with everybody on the Heat, okay? I had a problem with everybody. And the reason why I had a problem is because I liked the Heat, because I liked Dwayne Wade. And then LeBron went over to the Heat, and it made me go, now I can't root for them. I did the same thing.
So basically, you're a hater, is what I hear you say.
I never said I wasn't. I said,
listen, what that sounds like.
Y'all who know me know I have been a LeBron hater, sports hater. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
People understand. Hater. I do not hate LeBron James as a person.
Right.
But I was tired of him beating Boston. I was tired of him beating Boston over and over again. That was getting annoying. And he did it. And then he went to Miami and did it again. Roy, stop it, man. Stop that, dude. Stop it.
Look,
I have said, he said, I'm recording this. I've always said I respect LeBron James as a human being and as a person. I think he's a great man. He's a great individual. But if you beat one more team that I root for, we gonna have problems, sir. All right. Understand that this hate is because you're good at what you do. It's not, you understand. So that's why I dislike Miami. All right. I won't understand that. So I had nothing against Chris Bosh. I do think Memphis has a shot. Ja has to stay healthy.
Yeah.
They only go as far as he goes.
That's right.
I would love it if the Phoenix Suns.
Which is why I think they won't go far. Which is, by the way, why I think they won't go far. Like we were saying before.
I hate him so much, man. I hate him so much. I hate you so much.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, man. You just equated me to a racist. Thanks. That's a great way to. But so, I think Golden State will probably come out the West because this dude gets another year healthy. He's healthy now. Clay is healthy. They've also got a couple of guys that are,
those
they
young guys are
now.
There now. Yeah.
Right. Wiggins has seemed to become, whatever he is.
Well, Wiggins has finally become what we thought he was going to be when he came out.
Right. Well, I didn't even want to go that far. I think he's a very good role player for them. Like he fills a need.
2/3 of what he was should.
Fair enough.
He was supposed to be like a star. He right now is a better version of what Andre Iguodala was for them.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So but they have a really good shot at coming out the West. The Lakers, to me, I'm really interested in. I'm gonna watch the Lakers because I really feel like it's not a good recipe, and I think it's just going to explode.
It's going to fall apart. It's gonna fall.
And LeBron,
as long as they can
I like you, I really
on the
do,
roster.
but I'm gonna enjoy that. And take this hate. It's okay. Because you're a freaking 4-time champion. Who cares what I think? Like, I'm nobody. Like, so, I'm always going to root for you with your school. You're an Ohio guy. I got family in Ohio, so I respect that. I just want. So let me ask my question.
Never mind.
Shut up.
No. I'm going to remember that next time I have issues with the Patriots, but that's cool.
Hey, this man. Everybody I know has an issue with the Patriots. So I've heard all y'all Tom Brady hate, and I have dealt with it.
Absolutely.
I have listened,
100%.
and y'all have been more than welcome to tell me how much you hate Tom Brady. And so, it's all right. But I do want to ask this question because I do want to let you go. We're not going to do a traditional top 5 because I can't. This is me and my friend. You've been married for
12 years.
12 years. You have a beautiful wife, Lily, and beautiful children. How do you feel?
This dude is up here messing up the program.
I know, man. I'm seriously about to mute you, man. How do you feel?
The next time somebody asks me what I think of that man, I respect his right to exist.
How do you feel? I'm gonna give you an opportunity to throw flowers at your wife and your family. How do you feel you've changed as a man, and how do you feel that your wife has? What do you feel that your wife has done to change you, to make you better, to make you the man that you are now? Lily, record. Just record right now, like right now. Okay, you ready? Okay,
we could be here. We could be here all night talking about it, but I think there are two things that I think feel counterintuitive, but are the two things that are most important to me. My wife is my greatest cheerleader, and my wife is also my greatest critic. And both of those things have made me a better human being. Like, knowing that you have somebody who's going to support you in whatever direction you are moving in. And when my wife met me, I was making a certain salary in a certain place in my life, doing a certain thing. And right before we started dating, I was like, yeah, I'm going back to school. And we still here. That kind of doesn't make sense to me, but I'm with it, and she has supported me every step of the way. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, she rides harder for my greatness, for the belief in my greatness than I do most of the time. When opportunities don't come my way, for whatever reason, they don't come my way. If my wife feels like I should have got it, she's mad at everybody. So she's my greatest cheerleader. And I can't tell you what it means to have somebody underneath you who is doing that. But my wife is also my greatest critic. Like, we were talking about something that I was supposed to be doing this Friday, that I was supposed to be doing tomorrow. And, the hurricane messed it up and we postponed it. But, I was talking to her about something that was involved with that. And she spent the next 5 minutes telling me, well, you could be better this way. Sometimes you do some things that you shouldn't do and you need to be more like this. And she was right. You know what I mean? Like, to have somebody who is real with you like that, where it's like, when you should be supported, when you're doing greatness and things are going that way, they're like, yup, that's where you should be. That's how you're supposed to be. We know you have that in you. But then that person who could also turn around and say, here's how you get better. Here's how you get better. And the truth of the matter is, we don't always get people who can be both. We don't always get people who can do both. And part of that, I think, is you have to have somebody my wife will fight with me about this. I know you guys won't, but my wife will fight with me about this. I tell her all the time, like, you're way better than I am. Like, you're way smarter than I am. You have I tell her all the time, you're a way better lawyer. You are a way better lawyer than I ever was.
No,
I'll
fight you. She is.
Yeah, I know y'all won't fight it because y'all are whack. But y'all supposed to have my back and y'all don't. But it's cool.
I mean, we don't want to lie to you. Well, do you want us to lie? I mean, I can.
Sometimes. But but you need somebody who is better than you so that they can tell you how to be better. And if you hooking yourself up to somebody who, at least in some ways, you don't think is better than you, then you're never going to get beyond where you are right now, because the person that you hooked your life to is in no way better than you. So where you going? Unless you figure out how to get there on your own, which if you do, more power to you. But I have somebody in my life who pushes me, who celebrates me. It's my hope that I sort of do the same for her. Like, I'm in that space where I'm like, if I can do for you what you do for me, then I'm living a right life, and I hope that I am. But I am the person that I am now at 42 that I wasn't at 22, because for the last 12 years I've had somebody who is in my corner but is also real enough with me to let me know how to get better, and how to be better at being a husband, and how to be better at being a father, and how to be better at, at my job and where I'm trying to go in life. She, when we sit down and we have those conversations, and we don't have to have them every day, it doesn't have to be like that every day. But when I need that, she's there for me in the way that I need her to be there, whatever way that is. And, so, if you out there looking for a partner like Lily, you can't have her, but maybe you can find somebody who is like that for you in your life. Who does that for who you are as a human being.
Shout out to Lily. She's definitely better than you. I like her better than you. I just want you to know that. Like,
I mean, it's fair.
I just
fair.
wanted you to understand that we all like her better.
Real talk, though. She is way more likable than I am. Like, I realize that. I realize that as a human being.
I'm glad that you finally came to this realization. We didn't want to tell you.
No, well, I was never under the impression that I was likable.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad this is recording, because I'm glad you acknowledged that.
You know what?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Y'all can't let an emotional moment go. Y'all gotta go.
I tried. I really did, but you made it so easy, man.
My own mom's out here dunking on
me. Oh man. Mama, ooh, she's right. She's so right. I miss Mama Hines, man. I can't wait till I get back down there later. So, but we don't want to keep you. We don't want to keep you forever, even though. You and I can talk all night. We definitely gonna work this reunion out, this mini reunion. We all work too hard and too long not to be able to see our friends. I want to thank you for coming on, man. All the conversation, be it sports, be it reminiscing, absolutely the religious liberty discussion.
No, I appreciate it,
all
man.
on point. Fantastic. Definitely got to have you on again. If I haven't told you before, this is it, so you can record it. This is me not joking. I'm dead serious. I love you. You're my brother. We've been friends forever. We probably, we don't talk every day, but we don't necessarily need to talk every day because we both got jobs and we both got families, and we both don't need to talk every day, literally.
Yeah, I appreciate you, bro.
Every day, but
appreciate you, man. Love you. All the folk in the chat, most of y'all, I love y'all too. Y'all
we love all y'all. It's all our kinfolk. But I am proud of you. I am proud of the man you become, the lawyer, the professor, the father, the husband. You come a long way. I could tell a lot of stories about the way you used to be.
No, we good.
I'm not gonna do that. And Roy knows these stories because he's been there.
Both of you were there for many.
We were there for a lot of our stories.
Many of you were there also along with me. Like, let's not act like y'all were there going, no, don't do that. Y'all were there.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Once again, I was the calm, mature voice amongst the fools. I just,
right.
Like
I'm gonna let it slide because it's your show. I'm gonna let it slide because it's your show.
I can always mute you, like even when you try. Roy said, "I ain't no snitch." We don't snitch, but I remember, the man you were. You were my friend then.
All of you
you're
can send me the
man
embarrassing Javon stories. You can just send those.
We really don't need to do that. I embarrass myself.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after.
That'll be great for Thanksgiving.
The people that know me have enough embarrassing stories. They but I don't embarrass myself often, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Visually stoked in person.
I don't embarrass myself often. I'm pretty cool with it. I was pretty cool with it, man. I was a cool teenager. I'm sorry that I think his internet froze, y'all. So don't worry about that.
And on that lie, let's end the show.
But yeah, oh man, listen.
Jason.
Oh man, listen. Like I said,
anytime,
we got to get together, man. We got to get together.
Anytime about anything. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. You my boy, you my brother, and we definitely got to get our families together because I know you've met my wife and I've met your wife, but I would like to get together when it's not a funeral. It would be really nice if we could get together under nice pretenses, but we'll work it out, man. And thank you for everybody who watched the show, who witnessed this insanity as well as the intelligence from time to time. It wasn't a lot of it, but we tried to slip it in there. Everybody who's going to come back next week, I'm going to have a photographer, cosplayer Drew Phillips from SCAD, another friend of mine from SCAD. So you might hear some more crazy stories about me. Because if this show does nothing else, it points out that I have a lot of embarrassing stories to tell, or that I've been a part of a lot of embarrassing stuff. But I'm okay with it. I claim it. It's all right. But I'm here to entertain y'all. But as always, thank you for stopping by Stoked Podcast, creative talk with creative people. And enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the football, everybody. But Jason,
Florida, be safe.
You go back.
Yeah,
to
everybody
watching HGTV. Everybody in Florida, please be safe. You too. I hope the storm dies down and y'all don't have to deal with too much.
Well, I was about to say where it's going. So South Carolina, up in that area there.
Yeah. Be safe, everybody.
This weekend. So
bunker down if you can. Get out if you can. But listen, I love y'all. See you next week.